my intro did.
Welcome to TimeBenders Talks, the ultimate destination for professional photographers and creative business people. Hosted by Peggy McCartha, a certified professional photographer with over 3.5 decades of experience and the visionary founder of the TimeBenders community. This weekly podcast brings you insightful conversations with business-savvy experts who also excel in their creative fields. Providing you with valuable tips and insights, our mission is to encourage, inspire, and educate you to empower you to find your success. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, you'll find practical advice and motivation to elevate your craft and business. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode.
Yay! I am here with my very dear friend Aicila, and we are going to have a really fun show today.
Agreed. I love your new intro.
Thank you.
I was watching one of your other episodes and I was just like, that is beautiful. Are you a professional photographer and videographer? Because I feel like there's some skill in that.
Well, and I wrote my husband, and I'm into, emceeing it for me and, sounding all cool. I think he's done that for other people. I don't know. Anybody else has a really cool podcast intro? Wait, which way am I putting?
I do. I have one that but I'm just going to go back to you're skilled and the visuals are amazing. And I agree. He's fantastic. But yes. It was pretty, I was watching, I'm like, it's like she does this professionally or something.
It's like it's a professional thing. So I've been doing podcast or video shows for a really long time. I had Headshots by Peggy Presents for like 7 or 8 years before I discontinued that. And then I started up TimeBender Talks, and this is season 2. But in all of that time, this is the first time I've ever done a live show. All of the time before, I would pre-record it, I would edit it, I would do all the things. And that was the thing I didn't like doing about it. And I'd get burned out and I would stop. And so I was like, you know what? Live is fun because it's just like, it's real. Like if like the intro doesn't play in the beginning, you're like, okay, interesting. And something came up and said that that it's not playing on YouTube. So I hope that that's not true. But if it is, that sucks. I'm sure they'll find us on LinkedIn or I'll upload the replay. But either way, sometimes it's just fun to roll with the punches.
Mm-hmm. No, it's funny because I did the opposite. I did a live show for a while. And then I was like, I hate live shows. I don't want to do that anymore. But actually, it was a friend of mine that was just like, we were talking. He's like, why don't you not do it live? And I'm like, why don't I not do it live? Like, it's my show.
And your show is actually how we met. I saw your podcast and I was like, I need to know her. I need to be friends with her. I need her on my podcast. And actually, I think originally I just wanted you on my podcast. And then we started talking. I was like, okay, we're going to be friends.
Agreed. I one of the things that I love about the podcast community in general is that you have the opportunity to meet people that I wouldn't have met otherwise. We work at different industries and, you live in a different state, and yet we've actually hung out and gotten to know each other because the podcast community has such an old school internet feel where you actually can talk to people and to get to know them. And so I really appreciated you reaching out. And I loved, for those of you that are watching, Peggy was on my podcast, Business as Unusual. You should check it out. She talks about TimeBenders. Obviously, you know about TimeBenders, but I have a little bit of a different bent when I talk to people. So you can learn more about Peggy and what she's up to, which
there you go. We can promote your podcast and promote me at the same time. That was a really cool twist. I like it.
You know how I am about the win-win-win. I like everybody to win.
Everybody should win. People definitely should check out your podcast. And you've kind of been defining what you do and really finding your authentic space and your unique way about doing things. And even just since I've known you, you've really evolved into this where you're at now. And I want you to tell us what that is and kind of how you got there, and then we'll talk about what it is, because I think people see success on the outside and think that people just woke up and they were successful, and they forget about all the evolutions and all the failures and all the, not even failures, but all the well, that didn't work, let's pivot here, and all of those things. So let's talk about that.
Well, okay. Actually, so my first career was in the nonprofit world. I did social justice, community organizing, and I ran two LGBTQ plus community centers, one in Washington State, one here in Colorado. And part of why I left to start my consulting business was I wanted to spend time with my kids. When you're an executive director of a small nonprofit, you work nights and weekends and your kids go to school. So pretty much whenever they're home, you're not. And I did a lot to try and balance that. I had a lot of support in my community because I was very clear that I wanted to be with them. But I realized as they were hitting high school, I was like, I actually don't really know what the future's got to bring. Like, even if we get along and we like each other, maybe one of them wants to go study penguins in the Arctic or something, and I don't see them for 4 years at a time. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. So I sort of had this attitude of I get now, and I want to enjoy now as much as I can. And so I stepped back from that, and I did some contracts for small nonprofits. It was funny too, because when I first left, I was like, I'm going to work with, because I was like, you have to have a clear goal. I learned that in nonprofit fundraising, that you have to have a clear goal about what you're going to do, and you have to focus yourself on what you can control. So you have to say, wait, where you're going to put your effort. So I was like, I'm going to put my effort into working with tech companies, because I figured they had money for training on how to successfully retain women and LGBTQ employees. Because I had done a lot of generally inclusion training as part of the nonprofit world, and then also in my other business. And so I did none of that. Not once did I work with a tech company on retention, but having a goal did help me. So that was my first lesson, was you can have your idea about what you're going to do, and it's good to have a direction so that you pursue something in terms of your efforts. However, you have to also be flexible to what shows up. And what showed up was 2 or 3 small nonprofits that respected the work that I had done, that contracted with me to do operations for them. Because it turns out that's what I'm the best at. I just never thought of it as operations. I thought of it as that's what you do. So I was like, oh, okay, that's not how everybody thinks. That makes sense. So that was kind of the beginning. And then I kept kind of refining the operations piece, to realizing when I met you, I had been doing what I called being a co-founder in a box. So small startups and folks that wanted someone else to who wanted the input of a co-founder, someone who could stand next to them and create a strategy and then self-execute, and who was committed to their goals and their mission, but wasn't a founder, wasn't trying to run anything really, would provide feedback sometimes that you don't want, because I'm up for that, and would walk with you in that process. And I had a few people that I was doing that with, and I really love it, actually. And I can't really do it for more than 3 companies. I've reached them. I realized that's the maximum for me. And so I was like, all right, but I still want to help small businesses. And so then actually, and I'll do another plug for Peggy. I was in one of Peggy's sprints, and I realized what I'm doing with some of the smaller clients that I work with, but I didn't really have like a structure for it, is I'm helping them to map their business ecosystem. I'm helping them to identify how to stand in, because of exactly this. Like, you get so many messages, and I had that too, if this is how you're supposed to be. I'm helping them stand in the clarity of their vision, and then helping them to build systems and identify the systems they need that help them to work effectively, while also really honoring who they are, not trying to be a business person, whatever that is. And that especially works well for creatives, because a lot of creatives, but most people that leave the corporate world do so because they want to forge a different path. And so and yet still there's this idea that a good business person is always up by 8 or whatever. Like maybe you're not. Maybe you start work at 11. That's fine. What do you have to do? How do you have to do it? So that's what I taught. And that's when I sort of developed that other package. It's business cartography. It's much more project based. It's one-off. And I meet with people at different levels. There's the smallest level of doing a strategy all the way to the biggest one. But that process, you said, we'll talk about that later. So I'll step out of that. But just that process of recognizing also for me, one, I don't have unlimited time. So I have to find ways to help people that isn't being fully in their business, which is fun and I love it, but I can't do that for a lot of people. And I don't want to charge the kind of money I'd have to be able to just have 2 or 3 clients. I'm not interested in gouging people. So I think you said on your podcast with Jean, not all money is good money. And I don't, it wasn't in that way, but I also feel like for me, there's like, I know what feels right to me. And that's important.
I think money is the thing that we're going down a bit of a rabbit hole here, but you started it. But it's something that is so personal, and everybody has their opinion about what you should charge and all of this. But I, like you, I know who I like to work with, and I know what they'll pay, and so I feel like as long as I keep my prices in that area, I'm going to be able to reach the clients I want to work with. Now, could I charge more and get clients? Absolutely. I've been doing what I do for 35 years. Okay.
And you're incredibly talented, by the way, as you know, but I'm just going to say that I have a friend who's a digital marketer and she's like, who does your headshots? They're so talented. I'm like, yeah, she really is.
But I don't necessarily like to work with the people that would lay down $3,500 for one image. That's not the people that I enjoy working with. I enjoy working with people that really they have to push to pay my prices, but they really appreciate it and they get value in it and they use it. And it's a big, meaningful thing. And hopefully I help them pivot and, turn to the next level of their business. So, when you're people, and I always also do not advocate under lowballing at all. No. I know what my ideal clients will pay and I push it to the very top. I want them to stretch. To make that commitment. So I do not advocate for lowballing, but like what you said, it wouldn't feel good for you. Would you be able to find 3 clients that could pay you and you would have 3 clients a month and you would be fine? Yeah, you could find those people, but it wouldn't feel right. Yeah. And it wouldn't be the people that you'd want. So I like working also is the other thing. I don't mind my calendar being full. I don't need, I hear people, well, I only do this or that. And I'm like, what do you do the rest of the week?
Right.
Wouldn't that be boring? I mean,
I would. I think I know you. You'd always find something to do. So it's not.
I would. I definitely would. Get a puppy or something.
That's such a random thing. I mean, maybe you're getting a puppy.
I am telling myself that, is this a good idea? But we're doing it regardless because anyway, she's cute. Anyway,
well, I want to piggyback on that because one of the things that I also do with people is I map out, when I talk about mapping, I ask them to think about their projects and their business outside of just the financial realm. Because most of the time when we talk about ROI and profit and loss, we're really talking about income and money. And 100% we need that. It's part of the world we live in. I'm not anti that type of profit, but there's a couple of things I talk about. One, I really encourage people to shift from thinking about money to resources, because there are a lot of times when people want to barter and trade and they want to offer, I know photographers get this a lot, exposure. And I don't mean that, but I do know that there are times when I have found that a barter has been really to my benefit, because the other person and I have high level of skill in areas that really support each other. We like working together. So there's a lot of benefits. So first of all, I really encourage people to think about resources, not just money. And then secondly, I encourage them to think about, in addition to material resources, like an exchange of services or goods between you, to also think about the inspiration that you get back from the work that you're doing, the energy that you give and receive for the work that you're doing, and the community engagement or return and investment that you make. Because I feel like I call this my value metric. It's very creative, I know. But so I look at it in my business. I have the podcast that I do, Business is Unusual. And it takes a ton of time and energy and some material resources. So it takes from all those categories. And it doesn't return in the material resources category, not directly. I've had people listen to the podcast and hire me, so it does indirectly, but that's not actually its point. It's the other three: the community engagement, the opportunity to amplify other people that are doing great work, the inspiration that I get from being able to listen to all these people who are solving problems in new and unique ways, and the energy that I get just from doing it. So even though it takes a lot, it returns in all of those other areas. And so it's absolutely worth it, despite the fact that from a financial perspective alone, it is not a moneymaker. And I don't ever expect it to be. It's not the goal of what I'm doing. It's part of my passion. But I can't have more than one project like that in my business. If I have too many, then that's a problem. But so that's why I talk about the metric. You have to look at everything with all of those metrics and say, oh, okay, all my stuff really gives me money, but no energy, inspiration, or community. That's just as bad as if they're all like my podcast. You have to have a mix.
Mm-hmm. You have to have a mix. You have to have that balance.
Yeah.
And another thing that, podcast content also does for you is it sets you out as a person of authority in what you're talking about. So that is a return in itself. Yeah. But I'd said earlier, I've done video shows for many years, and then I would get burned out. But every time I would why did I get burned out? Like, what is it that burned me out? Because I love the podcast. I love interviewing people. I love talking with people. I love picking brains and seeing, why do you do the thing you do? That is so cool. I love that. And when I realized it was just simply, I didn't want to spend the time editing, I was like, okay, let's do a live show then.
Yeah.
Easy. Mm-hmm. Which I, in the past, would say, because I did produce other people's live shows. And in the past, I would say, I will never do a live show because I don't want the stress of that, somebody not showing up. But I've never had, if anything, all my guests show up early because they're all awesome. I've never had the stress of, oh my God, what's going to happen? Mm-hmm. So it's sometimes we focus on the what ifs that aren't even a problem. Mm-hmm. We focus so much on but what ifs, what is not. Well, you do need to be prepared. You do to have, a plan, but if we focus on the what ifs, it cripples us, and mm-hmm. it takes away that community, it takes away that inspiration, it takes away the money, it takes away all these things that we're trying to achieve. And so in living a balanced life, I like that as you're mapping it out, like, what is the whole picture look like? Not just what does this look like, but how does it weave into your family life? How do your kids fit into it if you have kids? Or how does your pets fit into it? Or how do your plants fit into it? Like the things that you nurture, how does that fit in? And, your friendships and all these things, how does that fit in? Because you can get so focused on money that you're not even having fun, and then nobody likes to be around you, period. Right? Like any of the people, your clients, your friends, your family, like your dog, like nobody wants to be around you because you're just so focused on one thing. So tell us how you kind of like help people while you're mapping that out, really find that.
And most people want that, actually. That's where I say, like, when I talk about, I stand between the entrepreneur and all the messaging that they get that says there's the right way to do it and someone's going to sell it to you, is because most people are just relieved when you're like, oh, you don't like social media? Don't do it. But everyone says I have to. Okay. But are they doing it for you? Like, if they aren't, then, and I've said it, like, I'm all about growth. I'm all about learning. I'm all about tools. Like, that's one of the things we always geek out about. What I'm not about is you sacrificing your energy, your inspiration, and your passion for something someone else has decided is a priority. And
Mm-hmm.
and I have a whole rant about social media because I feel like I've seen so many platforms really kind of harm creators because they have an algorithm and they have a monetization, and people succeed at it and then they change it. You don't have a business model. If you're a YouTube streamer, you have a little bit of a lottery because
Mm-hmm.
they can change it, and they will change it at any time. And I've seen that across industries and across platforms. So if you start dancing to someone else's tune, they're just going to keep doing that. And that a lot of people, the reason they get into entrepreneurship is because they want to create something and they want to forge their own path. And then a lot of the folks that I work with, they're also wise enough to realize that just because you're forging your own path doesn't mean you don't have other people working with you, supporting you. And what's that old, I think the Umbrella Academy, there's a quote. It's like, what do you call a superhero that works alone? A supervillain. Like, like we need a
That's
team,
so true.
right?
Yeah, that is so true. Yeah.
So we need a
Because
team.
if you're not looking at other people's perspectives, then you're missing out on so much, and
Yep.
and it's harmful. It's harmful.
So that's people want that. They just really, a lot of them, they just need someone to help them remember they have permission sometimes. And then the value metric and the business cartography gives them some really concrete, actionable ways to evaluate how they're spending their time, how they're spending their business time, and
Mm.
how to identify what their goals and priorities are. So it's really taking all the stuff that feels good and making it concrete. And also I think for creatives, the thing that I've observed in many creatives in a variety of businesses is they need what I call back brain time. They have to have some unstructured time where they can kind of just let themselves flow around. And they, once again, a lot of creatives have been told that they're wasting time when they do X. And it's like, no, that's not what's happening. You're not wasting time. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on that is way more effective actually than you trying to like hold yourself here in this painful way. But they don't get that message. They don't get that message from their kids. They don't get it in business or business schools. They get told, they're whatever. I'm not even going to try to repeat any of it because we don't need to give it more voice. But that's one of the things that I really feel like it is helping them to see that their instincts are good. They know themselves. They know what they need, and help them build a system that allows them to thrive, that says, you need that back brain time. How do we prioritize that? And like I said, they're usually grateful and relieved. Like, what? I'm allowed to? It's your business. Yes.
Exactly. And a lot of entrepreneurs are somewhere in the spectrum of neurodivergent. I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
statistics show us that a lot of entrepreneurs are. And that is because, neurodivergent are normally more intelligent than the average person. I mean, let's just say it. What? No, no. But seriously, neurodivergent people look at things differently. They see a different aspect, and so they don't usually fit into the corporate thing. And they're like, why do I have to do ABC when I could just do this and get there here? Why do I have to do all these silly, repetitive, time sucking things when I could just do it this way? It'd be so much easier. And then they're like, okay, I'm really talented at this. I'm going to start my own business. And then what do? Immediately fall back into, okay, so I have to do ABC because that's what they're told.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that's why you left the one place to do this. Why are you falling back into that box that there's only one right way? And, I always say that, I can't tell you how to reach success because my definition of success is probably not your definition of success, but I can help you ask some questions and find your path. And that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of what you're doing. It's like giving people permission to be themselves and let
Mm-hmm.
their own geniuses shine. And I love that. I love that how you do that. And I love to watch you work. And actually, to be quite honest, I love to watch you do that to me, like whether you're intentionally doing it or it just happens naturally. But you do this thing where I'm saying something, you go, yeah, I believe that. Like, you're really good at that, Peggy. You should listen to yourself. And it's like, I know what you're doing.
What are you talking about? Look, I trust you. So
But it's somebody to give you permission to trust yourself. Because when when we're put in situations over and over and over where we're gaslit and we're told that we don't know what we're talking about and we don't know what we're feeling and we don't know what we're seeing, then we forget to trust ourselves because we're like, well, maybe I am this or I am that. And you're like, you know what? I'm going to give you permission to trust yourself because you're a badass at this. Like, go for it. And I'm just going to say, if, you should book some time with Aicila. Seriously, like book some time. You'll find it in the comments or in the description. Book some time and see what I'm talking about, because the way that she encourages and uplifts in just such a natural, authentic way it's beautiful to watch.
Thank you.
It's beautiful to watch you do it with other people. It's actually beautiful to watch you do it with me. I'm like, oh, it's a little fuzzy.
Well,
So, yeah.
I'm definitely Team Peggy. So I think that I've been working on a project where I get to talk to people that are in TimeBenders, and I'm asking real questions, and these people don't necessarily know me, so they don't know that I don't start lead with I'm Team Peggy. I mean, I'm sure they assume that since I'm working with her, but they're so complimentary and very specific. Like lots of people in the world will get a compliment like, oh, they're so great, but they're so specific. Like Peggy's really good at what she just said she does, helping you ask the questions you need to understand how to do your business better. She's really good at showing you how you can work better with your clients as a photographer. She's really concrete, helpful tips, like that kind of like specific benefit. So I'm not alone in my Team Peggy.
Okay. Well, we're talking about Team Aicila right now. So.
At any rate, no, and I love it. I love doing it, and it is true. It is my natural way. Like I raised kids, and I have been actually around a lot of neurodivergent and creative people in my life, and I have a little bit. My friend calls it sheepdogging around it, because I get so angry at the way that people are diminished because they're different. It is actually part of what I did come out as a lesbian, but part of why I got into activism was because I got so tired of seeing the way that the LGBTQ community was treated. And some of it was even just looks. Like I had little kids and I was a little bit more femme presenting, so I didn't receive as much of the bad treatment as the lesbian women that I knew that had more of a masculine presentation. And I just was like having none of it. And so I was like, all right, fine, I'll just go be an activist if I have to be an activist, because I don't like seeing people be mistreated in front of me when I can do something. And so that's a lot of it.
And I think that's probably one of the many places that we connected really early on, is we both put our heels in the sand and stand pretty firm on human rights and civil rights and justice and equality and just being a human. I call it just being a human. Like, just be a decent human. Like, that's really all that I ask of anyone, is just be a decent human. And when you show up in your business and you're just a decent human, you'll be surprised how far that will take you. Because sadly, that's not something that everybody finds. And so when you show up and you're like, you know what? I know that's my policy, but I see where you're coming from. Let me just help you here. And when you just treat people with respect and love, it's amazing what that does to your business, because people are like, oh, wow, you know what? She really helped me out when I was having a tough time, and I'm, blah, 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 blah. And, it's just be a decent human.
No, I follow this woman, Saira Rao. She wrote a book called, it's a very long name, White Women, Everything You Already Know About Your Own Racism and How to Do Better. It's a little bit of a mouthful. It's a great book. Highly recommend it. And one of the things that she says that I really love is, she said, we need to get rid of this idea of activists, because being an activist it sounds like it should be, it's like separate from life. And what she encourages instead is, be active in your life in these ways that are about equity and anti-racism and pro-equality, anti-colonialism, et cetera. And I just really loved that. Really resonated for me when I read that. I mean, a lot of what she says is just really on point. She's got a keen observation of the structural issues and all of the pain that gets caused. And the real antidote to that is community, it's connection, and showing up as a human and being decent in your life and your business, and means that you also get to work with really amazing people. And so it's pretty awesome.
True, very true. And I think that is that's part of, you should include that in your map, right? The things that are important to you, the things that
Mm-hmm.
you value, and let all of those things shine in your business.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, go ahead, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you didn't. I was
Um,
agreeing with you.
so tell us one of your most favorite tips that you would like our listeners to hear. Tell us a tip, what you would give, advice you would give to people about how to map out their life and business.
So probably the stuff I've talked about, the value metric, but the way you get there is you have to be willing to look at things as they are. So I talk about, I have these 3 business values, right? Clarity, sustainability, and integrity. And when I talk about clarity, what I mean is being dispassionately ruthless in looking at what you're doing. So if you say, for example, that, your priority is, and this is probably a personal example, like your priority is your health, but then you look at your week and you spend all of your time doing unhealthy things, then that is not actually your priority. So you need to actually first look at what's happening and be willing to acknowledge how things are, what is and isn't working, and without judgment. That's why I say just passionate. Because I'll say blameless. I took a course called Positive Intelligence, and they talked about blameless discernment, and that's another really good phrase for it. Because without being clear on what's happening and what you're doing and how things are showing up, then you're unlikely to be able to effectively move yourself in the direction you want to go. And so the ruthlessness is to me being willing to acknowledge, like, I love this and it's actually draining me, or I hate this and it's actually something I'm really good at, and it makes it so that everything else is possible. And then be honest, like, can I make myself do it? Like we did that with your business. You and I were talking about social media, and you're like, and we kind of went through, and I was like, I agree. I don't want you to drain things, and you do need to get the word out. Let's find something that actually works for you, though.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't find the thing that works for you until you can be honest about what you're doing, how you feel, how it affects you, etc.
And that's so true. And I feel like you were talking to me personally with the health thing. I feel a little judged. No, but seriously, because I tend to say, I prioritize my health, I prioritize my family, I prioritize, blah, blah. But then I will sit here and work for 13 hours at a time, a day, for 6 days in a row. And then on the 7th day, I'll only work for 8 hours. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, oh, so you can't tell me, Peggy, that you actually prioritize these things when you actually prioritize sitting on your butt and editing pictures. That's what you prioritize. That's what it is. Be
Yep.
honest. And why is that? Like, what am I getting out of that? Is it actually something that I need to spend this much time on? Is it, blah, blah, blah. And, because I do struggle with some health issues, I tend to not want to inconvenience anyone or slow anyone down. So I will push and push and push and push and push until it's like I can't move. And then I'm down for 2 weeks. So what did I accomplish with that? And, maybe you don't struggle with health issues, but maybe it's just other things where you're doing these things and you say, oh, this is my priority. But when you look at how you're living your life, it is clearly not your priority.
Right.
So that, I super feel called out on that. Thank you. I'm going to take that. I'm going to take that to heart. I mean, if you're going to call me out in public like this, I'll take it to heart.
Well, it's not just you. We all have things, right? We're misaligned from what we think we're doing, and that's I really do evaluate what I say is important to me and what I'm actually doing on a regular basis, because I know that it's so easy to make those micro tweaks to get out of alignment. It's also easy to make them to get back in alignment. I think I'll add on to that tip, which is that don't go for the grand gesture. The grand gesture is rarely effective and it's highly disruptive. So make one small change every day or every week. I actually go for weekly and say, all right. And when I was younger, I was like, I have to eat more healthily. And so my first goal, because my rule at that time was better choices. My first goal was I'm going to eat less, not none, less raw cookie dough. Because I was absolutely that kid, a 20-year-old would be like, let's have raw cookie dough, not cookies, raw. I love that. I mean, less raw cookie dough. It was my first dieting goal or health goal. And some people judge you. Well, that's not a good, I'm like, that health goal got me to a really healthy lifestyle because I did it one step at a time and I incorporated new habits. And the better choices was a great one. Like I would be like, I got all the food out of the house that it wasn't good for me. And I gave myself permission if I really wanted something to go get it at the store. Because then as I was driving, I'd be like, well, instead of a bucket of chocolate ice cream, I'm going to make BLTs. Now, are they good for you? No, they're not. But they're a little bit better than a bucket of ice cream. They met the better choices criteria.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I actually do love that because sometimes we think, it's such, well, so-and-so's doing, posting 3 times a day, 7 days a week. I have to do that. Well, why? Why do you have to do that?
Yeah. Why do you have to do that? Let's start. Yeah. Be real with yourself. What do you need?
Real. What can you do? And what can get you in that, because most people know that a little over a year ago, I took a 1-month break from social media. And I'm just now starting to come back, but I'm not posting every day and I'm not beating myself up. But, I post 2 or 3 times a week and that's good because that's not nothing. And before I was doing nothing because I couldn't handle the every, 7 days a week on a time and on a, with all these rules. I post and if I don't post at the right time of the day, I don't care. Cause you know what? It's better than not posting at all.
Well, and I love, and I know I'm a little biased because I suggested a Tuesday thing, but I love what you're doing. Like they're very interesting. A lot of people are giving good comments. Like it's a great extension of what TimeBenders is, because that's the thing is, how to put that all together. So when you can let yourself out of the expectations of this other thing, whatever it is, right. You've got good content. And that to me is the winner. Like if you have two really solid things a week, I mean, that's way better than, and I know like so I just want to, for the people out there that are like, but yes, you are correct. Posting weekly gets you more overall, or daily gets you more overall engagement, blah, blah, blah. But if you hate it so much that you dread it and it's draining you and it keeps you from being able to produce in other ways, then it's kind of a loss. Like that's, so find the rhythm and cadence that you can do and make sure your content is stuff that you feel good about. It doesn't be perfect. And then as time goes on, you can kind of see how that flows for you. And be you. That's the other part of it, right? Like be you.
Just, don't worry about what other people think. And I know that's such an easy thing for people to say, but it's so true. Just, it doesn't matter because they're so consumed with their own lives. They really aren't watching you anyway. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Right. Nobody's thinking about you.
So consumed with their own life. They're not thinking that much about you. And if they do think of you, it's for just a second and then they move on back to their own drama. So, just go out there and be you and have fun.
Our mutual colleague and friend, Ethan Decker, is going to be your guest next week. He says that from marketing, he says, don't worry what your customers think about you. Worry if they think about you at all.
Exactly. Exactly. In fact, I think it is Ethan that's told me, he's like, people don't care. They don't care about you. And I was like, but I want them to care about me. They don't. It's
but
free.
You really don't, actually.
You don't. Just move on. Go do your life. That is so awesome. Aicila, I have had so much fun with you today. This has been so wonderful. Thank you so much. So let's recap. What did we learn today? We learned to really map out what we want in our lives, right? And how do we do that? We book an appointment with Aicila. That's how we do that because she is the queen. What else did we talk about, Aicila?
We talked about getting clear about what's real.
Getting clear about what's real.
Making small changes.
Small changes, small consistent changes are better than a grand gesture, because you're just gonna. And the other thing that you told me off camera when you were telling me, Peggy, you really do have to do something on social media. It's like, just do that one thing that you can succeed at. Just do the one little thing, and then you'll feel so accomplished that you did this. And I am a grand gesture person. Anybody that knows me knows that if I say I'm going to do this, I do the whole thing. I've always been that person. So I feel that my accomplishment is the fact that I am taking small steps and not overwhelming myself. That in itself is a win, right? So that, and celebrate. We should celebrate our wins. Celebrate our wins.
That's important.
Yes. Well, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I always love chatting with you.
So check out the comments. I know YouTube kept saying that it lost the thing, so I'll go check and see if we were up on YouTube. If not, I'll upload it to YouTube, and I'll put in the comments all the wonderful things. But thank you so much. And for everyone else, you guys have a great week, and I will see you next week. And like Aicila said, Ethan will be here with us. All right. Thanks again.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to TimeBenders Talks. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Being a creative business person doesn't have to be lonely. Schedule a tour of the TimeBenders community today and discover how you can join this amazing group of creative professionals and be a part of a supportive and encouraging community where everyone thrives and succeeds. Click on the link in the description.